Welcome to Season 10 of How to Start Up, the podcast helping you start, scale your business with advice from entrepreneurs on what to do now, next, or never when scaling your company. This season, we're focusing on all things brand, so you'll hear from a series of amazing entrepreneurs on what they've learnt in their own journeys. Hosted by me, Juliet Fallowfield, founder of the B Corp certified PR and communications consultancy, Fallowfield & Mason. Our mission is to enable you to own your communications in-house with a long-term view. With the UK's fashion sector's annual revenue estimated to be just under £60 billion, it is a highly competitive sector in which you need a strong brand to differentiate your offering. Given this, I wanted to speak with an expert about how to build a fashion brand that stands out from the crowd. In this episode, I speak with Henrietta Rix, co-founder of RIXO, a leading British womenswear brand. Together with her co-founder Orlagh, the pair founded RIXO in 2015 to bridge the gap between great fitting pieces and unique designs, as well as offering a dynamic in-person experience too. Keep listening to hear Henrietta's advice on starting a fashion brand and why sticking to your roots and your gut feeling will really help you distinguish your brand from its competition. Hi Henrietta, thank you so much for your time today on How to Start Up. We're going to chat all things brand and especially dynamic brands for RIXO. But before we get into that, it would be wonderful if you could kick off with an introduction as to who you are and a bit about the brand that you started.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always nice to take time out of your day and kind of reflect back, I guess, because you don't really get much time to do that. My name's Henrietta Rix, so I'm one half of RIXO, the female women's wear contemporary brand that Orla and I founded roughly 9 years ago now, back in our uni living room. So we met at university and then found it up from extremely humble beginnings. And we still own the business ourselves, 50-50. So we have no external investment. And it's been a real journey.
That's amazing. Congratulations, because I know a lot of people know the brand, but they might not know too much about who founded it. And also, now I've become self-employed, I understand how incredible that is that you haven't had external investment and you've achieved so much. Like, how did you begin creating the RIXO brand? There's something about starting the business, but the brand in particular, how did you tackle that?
I think when it comes to the brand, I think when we first launched it, we were comparing us to massive powerhouses that we'd walk around the floors of Selfridges and Harrods and look at what everyone else was doing. And I think we actually thought, do you know what? We can't even compare ourselves to that. So why we're going to set ourselves up to fail if we do. So let's just be real. I mean, and we were so ashamed at the start. We were like, no, we'll come to you. We literally used to meet people in Whole Foods and we pretended we had this office. And then I think it was only about 6 months in, we were like, look, let's just stay true to ourselves. And as soon as we kind of like literally opened up our living room, which is where we did everything from, all the buyers would come from Harrods, Selfridges, Net-a-Porter, Liberty. They'd come to our uni living room, see the collection, press would come round. And we just kind of we were ourselves. We were just showing people what we were doing. And we didn't really know the right and wrong way of doing it. We hadn't had training beforehand. We'd come literally fresh out of university. I mean, tiny stints, both of us within buying, but pretty much non-existent careers before RIXO. We were just coming at it from a completely fresh angle and just being really passionate about what we were doing. We felt so passionate about the gap in the market and the product that we were creating. And at the time, no one was wearing really 10 years ago dresses with trainers really casually. Ola and I never wear jeans. We wear skirts and dresses and vintage. And that's kind of what we wore the whole time. So we wanted to be able to create something beautiful and a lasting product that was printed in silk at an attainable price point that you could then wear over and over again. I mean, at the time in the market, if you filtered on Net-a-Porter by a silk dress, you were only getting something that was over £2,000. There was nothing really in that space. So I think we felt really passionate, one, about the gap. And then the whole branding around it is we did everything ourselves. We didn't have a massive budget. We didn't have investors. So we didn't have the money to pump into something. So we spotted models in the gym, used our friends. We literally found this random building in London that was kind of a squatter building that we shot our first lookbook in. I mean, it was a right mess. There was pigeon poo everywhere. So literally before the shoot started, we cleaned it all. It was just awful, but we did everything, even like all the flat shots would shoot that. And then we launched Instagram. And I think timing obviously helps as well. Instagram was starting to come up and it was really a free platform that anyone could access. And within 1 second or 2 seconds, a journalist or a stylist or a buyer could look on your profile and see straight away, I like the vibe or I don't like the vibe. So within an immediate look or glance at someone's profile, you could kind of get your brand ethos across. So I think Instagram definitely really helped us at the start.
what you're saying is that because you anchored it right back to the roots of who you guys were, what you were doing, how you were doing it, you weren't doing any false pretenses. And that ethos came through in the styling and the shots and then your Instagram aesthetic. So all brand touch points, you were consistent. And at the time, and by the way, you shouldn't be ashamed of that in any way. It's amazing what you've managed to build over the years. But it sounds like you had a bit of imposter syndrome of, well, we should be doing it this way, we should be doing that way, but we kind of don't really know what other people are doing, so it doesn't really matter. We're just going to do it our way, and it worked. But do you think that level of consistency was important in that brand understanding from the external eye?
We couldn't afford to employ anyone. So customer care, we had the same inbox. It was literally info@RIXO because we are not tech savvy at all. We don't even know how to set up email. So we literally had the same email address for the first like 2 years of RIXO, and everything came into info@RIXO. My personal phone number was the customer care line. So I would answer every customer care call, get back to all the customer care emails. Instagram, I did every single Instagram for the first 8 years of RIXO. So it was my tone of voice. We did all the emails. Ola and I were on the photo shoots. We were styling the models with all our personal jewelry because we couldn't afford to get a stylist or anything in. So it was literally we were grabbing things from our wardrobe in the morning and styling the model. At the same time, then we were young, we had no external responsibilities. We didn't have kids, we didn't have mortgages, we didn't have boyfriends or husbands. So I think we could put everything into it. I mean, our whole life became RIXO. I think you've got to do that for the first couple of years if you don't want to take investment. So yeah, I mean, we did every single touch point, the whole customer journey from design all the way through to like we opened a store within the first 6 months. I mean, it was a pop-up store, but Ola and I were in the store every single day, talking to customers, then working in the evening, then coming back the next day. Or if I was on the shop floor, Ola would go to the coffee shop across the road with her laptop and be working, and then we'd swap over. So we were hearing it straight back from the customer, and you can implement change straight away, whether it be the fit of a garment or the price point of something. So we were constantly absorbing all that customer feedback from literally day one. So I think that helps you then enhance the brand on. We've not really changed in regards to what we think the RIXO brand is. It's all about empowering a woman to feel amazing. And hopefully, if a woman likes the style of RIXO and the vintage and the prints, then we've got something for her across the different shapes. And we're not saying we're for everyone. Like some people might not like kind of the aesthetic of RIXO, but if they do, then we'd like to think that if they came into one of our stores or online, like we can offer them something. And I think sizing as well is something we've always wanted to do and improve upon that. So I think from the get-go, we've tried to push the factories that we work with to increase our size range and do things like that, but always staying true to what we really believe and just what we love, really. Like Orla signs off every single print that goes out. So she's still behind all the prints that we design and we do. So I think there's still that kind of real emotional connection where it comes, everything from RIXO pretty much comes directly from Orla and I, but albeit now we have the most amazing team to help us do that. And they're experts in their own right. Like I wouldn't pretend I'm experts in all areas, but we've been through every single department and we've done it ourselves. So we understand what goes into it.
Well, also you appreciate it as well. Like I know I'm not going to be an expert in social media templates, but I appreciate how hard it is and how much time it takes to get there. And I think when you know when to delegate, that's a game changer because you're like, I know I'm not the best person for this job, but I really am sympathetic to how much time it might take someone else. But I love that because I know, having watched the brand grow and seen the editorial and looking on a shopping page and you see various products laid out by the editors, you know when it's a RIXO dress. And in fashion, I think that is really impressive to have achieved that because, I mean, not just my opinion, I know many other people can identify a RIXO dress as well, but to stand out amongst the crowd in fashion, especially ready to wear and especially women's ready to wear, is no mean feat. Is that because you haven't deviated from that design ethos from the beginning? You wanted feminine, beautifully cut, beautiful materials, dresses, skirts. Have you deliberately just stuck with that and carried on iterating from there?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's something that we haven't followed trends. So it's not like, oh, there's a trend, let's jump on the minimal, quiet luxury trend. That's just not RIXO. We're not
No.
minimal. And so, I mean, if the trend's against you, it's against you. And it can be difficult in trade if that happens. But we've really stayed true to what the DNA is of RIXO. And I think ultimately it goes back to the fact that Orla has stayed consistent and across the whole design team for the last 9.5 years almost. It's not as if you've had different designers coming in and they have an ego and they want to mark their territory. It's very much true to who we are, even as if we were customers. Like we always say, what do we want? And when we're pricing garments, what would we pay for that? And how can we style it so we can show the customer that she can wear it multiple times, like how we would wear it to the office or to the app or weekend or with your kids. So I think we've always definitely stayed true to that.
Well, I think it brings it to life because whenever I browsed your website or been into a store or seen your clothes on Friends, it is understandable and digestible, but interesting. And this is what I wanted to focus on today was how do you continue after, well, nearly a decade, bring that dynamic approach in? Do you ever get worn out? Are you ever exhausted by it? Like, how do you keep that nimble, exciting, approachable, fun element to your brand? Because any piece that you see or try on has a kind of joie de vivre, or it's playful, it's fun, it's gorgeous. The fabrics, the colors, all of it is cheerful. And any girlfriend going to any wedding will always go to RIXO first. And I think that's testament. It's a joyous thing. How do you do that? Give us all your secrets.
I guess, I mean, it's endless. Like, there is so much hard work that goes into it. I think people think that having a fashion brand is all glamorous. I think as the business evolves and the business gets bigger, it's hard work. There are really hard days and where you kind of there's loads of different challenges. It can be financial, logistics, it can be customer
Oh, don't
care.
worry. Everyone in PR was like, "Oh, you're definitely going for long lunches every day if you work in PR." I'm like, "Are you joking?" Oh, and the classic, "Oh, you're self-employed, you get endless holiday." I'm like, "You get none." But yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely that. But I think if you're passionate about what you do, like there's nothing better than seeing a customer randomly on a tube or on holiday. I'll get photos like my husband or some of my family will send me random pictures of like a news presenter on the TV and they always get it right. Like it could be like a star print or a floral print, but they know when it's RIXO and they're like, they spot something and we get tube pictures from, we call it RIXO in the wild. But when you see that, that gives you the enjoyment. And when you get letters in and DMs from customers telling you how happy they are, how many compliments they got, and they've worn something for a really special occasion, like that's the most amazing feeling and keeps you going. Like we've got such an amazing community of humans at Brixo, and I think that community is what keeps you going. So even at nighttime, like I can't help myself, but every single night I'll scroll and go into the tagged humans at Rixo pictures and I'm commenting on them. You get enjoyment of seeing people and how they've styled it as well into their lifestyle. Like we obviously design dresses and we're like, that's the perfect piece for a wedding. But someone can wear it on holiday or they can kind of wear it to brunch or on a dog walk or however they're wearing it and they can style it in so many different ways. So I think that's ultimately then inspiring for us to then elevate the collection and even feedback like about some of the shapes and the fabrications and stuff. We're constantly getting feedback. So I think that helps. We're probably both very competitive as well. So we always want to improve, improve, improve.
Well, you've got the hunger for it, which keeps that energy there. But something also that I wanted to talk in detail about was your beautiful store on the King's Road that I've been into often. And when I was back in the day when I worked at Chanel and various other retailers and brands, the competition was always how do we get them to come into our door and not our competitor's door? How do we get them to walk through and visit us regularly? And someone else said this in the podcast, I think it was Aaron Chatley in his episode. You can always sell something to someone once, but it's getting them to come back that's the hard part. And your store, and correct me if I get any of this wrong, you have a really cool coffee shop at the front, which is very Instagram friendly. You've
Yeah.
got an incredible store design that's almost like in the round and you walk around and it's not a square room where you walk in and there's hanging rails. It's like almost like backstage at a theatre.
Mm.
Then you've got a concession area where you've got secondhand RIXO. You can come in and
Yes,
buy
yeah.
upcycled, pre-loved,
Yes,
thank you. And it's almost like this magical mystery tour through room after room of beautiful clothing after beautiful clothing. But then the pre-loved is a price option for clients all on the King's Road, which is obviously probably the most expensive real estate you can get in London, short of Knightsbridge. How have you made that? How did you come up with that concept? Because I don't think I've seen anything else like it on a high street.
everything. So she was absorbing, and she's Ola's twin as well. And we're so close that she absorbed everything about the brand. And we had to build this business pack. And when we were like 2 years in, and we were building like what our dream concept store would be. And within that store, we wanted it to always feel as if someone was walking into our living room because we had 2 years of customers coming into our living room, trying things on, going to literally our toilet upstairs, coming down, showing us whilst we were just working away. And we were saying, yeah, no, wrapping it up, off they went. And we wanted to have that living room feel, but just obviously in a bigger way. So we wanted people to walk in straight away and not feel as if they couldn't touch things or anything. So we made sure that we had everything was like kind of not perfectly done. So we've got like gorgeous vintage furniture in there, but it all needed to feel like wow and colourful and maximalism. We didn't want a minimalistic, quiet store that felt quite, I don't know, just not RIXO really.
Well, you come out of it with your batteries recharged. And I think if you got a bar in there as well.
We've got a cocktail bar, yes.
Yeah.
And the cocktail bar team that do that as well, Black Lions, they're amazing. They're a young company as well, so they kind of support us when it comes to, like, Chelsea Flower Show or different activations throughout the year. They can make bespoke cocktails for that time. So it's just really nice, and honestly, on the weekend, on a Saturday and Sunday, when the bar's busy, there's a real buzz, the fitting rooms, customers are coming out and they're helping each other, and they're saying, "Oh, I've not seen that. Can I try that on this size?" And then people are swapping, and that whole community feel is exactly what we wanted, and we're so lucky that it has paid off. I mean, there was lots of blood, sweat, and tears put into it before.
I was going to say, how long from concept to door opening did you take?
I mean, we did it pretty quick if you compare it to probably about a year from when we first spotted the location. And then by the time you do the legals and get the lease and everything, and then the works happen. But I'd say the works were around 6, 7 months. It was a completely empty space. So we had to just build every single wall in there was kind of constructed.
But it doesn't come across like that. It comes across like it's always been there. But for a young brand, I think that is something incredible that you've
And in the
achieved.
bridal boutique as well, we wanted that to feel quite separate. So that's got a lower ceiling level. It's got the skirting boards. It kind of feels like you're in an independent boutique at the very back. So it feels as if you're going just for bridal. You've got that dedicated space that can be private. And then we've got the private apartment upstairs, which we use for supper clubs. And again, it's just more community activations. So
Yeah.
getting the community in the store, talking to each other. And it's not about the sell at all. Like, lots of people come in and they're like, wow, they take pictures, they post it on Instagram and they don't buy, which is fine.
They're doing your PR for you. And I've seen you pop up at Wilderness as well, I think, in some festivals where you've been active, and everyone talks about brand activations, but actually you are actively doing things. You're present, and you're saying something you said about it's not all about sales. I found in my business, in a service-based business, not product, so it's very different. But when you start recruiting more people into the team, hoping that company culture filters through to everybody when you're not in direct contact with everyone reporting to you. How have you managed to instill this excitement and fun into your sales associates? Because you go in there, they are the most helpful people on the planet, and they're really kind and really humble and nice, which often in shops you don't get that feeling. You're a bit intimidated and they look like a supermodel. I was like, well, I'm never going to look like you in that. Don't make me try on that. I feel awful. They are so helpful. How have you managed to sort of train them to be on brand, for want of a better expression?
I guess it's come from the fact that both Orla and I worked in retail. So for 3 years throughout uni, I worked at Selfridges on the shop floor, and then Orla worked at Reese as well. So the two of us knew how you can change how someone feels. Like, someone's obviously coming shopping for a reason. I know you can say to a customer, we always have open-ended questions that you want to ask a customer. Say, oh, are you looking for anything in particular? And often customers can just say no, but there is a reason they're out shopping that day. They've either had a shit work day and they want to cheer themselves up. They've actually got an important occasion coming up. They're shopping for some other reason, for something to fit into their lifestyle. So there is a reason someone's shopping, or they're just having a nice fun day out with their friends. And can you cheer them up, talk to them about the brand, inspire them a little bit? So we always ask the girls to ask open-ended questions. There's a lot more we can do on the service. I sometimes walk in and I think, as the founder, you always see things that you think, oh my God, this isn't right. We need
Yeah.
to change that. We need to change that. So it's nice to hear, obviously, that compliment that you've always had good experiences there. But I think the customer is why we're here. We wouldn't be here without the customer. So I think even the customer care team, like, we used to do the customer care every single email for 3 years. So I understand how important that is, and how just the tone of voice you talking to someone can make them feel either really shit about themselves or really good. Like, you're ultimately getting to the same solution. But if someone wants to return and something's happened, it's just being understanding of their situation and treating people, I think, as an individual rather than just this is a blanket rule. So we always do try and make sure that the team have power to kind of use their common sense. If someone has really struggled or they've wanted an alteration and maybe it's later and they've come to pick it up and it's not ready, or little things like that, then they can use the common sense to please that customer and try and do something. And we have little surprise and delights as well. So, like, free scrunchies for customers and like free coffees as well, and just bits and bobs like that, really. And the flagship allows us to do that.
Well, I think what you said, it all makes perfect sense now that you wanted to emulate your living room. And so you've got a girlfriend round who's come round to maybe borrow something for a fun party, and they're trying on the wardrobe in your living room and have a coffee, or let's have a quick chat. That is the vibe. It comes through in the clothes. And that, I imagine, when you get that loyal customer, that repeat, obviously everybody always wants a repeat client, that it's a genuine loyalty there. And are there any things that will you go back over the last 9.5 years and do differently when it comes to creating this kind of fun brand or dynamic brand?
It's such a good question. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of things. We've made mistakes along the way, definitely. I think COVID actually, even though it was a really stressful time and a bad time, it allowed us to really kind of Orla and I to rethink and take a step back and think, actually, why did we create RIXO in the first place? We've had like structural changes as well within the teams where potentially we've gone down a path or and been really narrowed down attributes and trying to comp things from last year. Like we were saying, do you know what? Straight after we came out of COVID, everyone was obsessed with sequins. We couldn't keep them in stock. So the year after, we were like, right, autumn, winter, sequins, go crazy for it. No one wanted them the year after. So there's definitely mistakes that you make where you think, actually, in the first couple of years, we never would have done that. We would have just gone with our gut, what we thought was right for the customer, and created something new for them instead of just the sequin and comping the sequin sales of last year. So there's definitely things as you evolve, you think, actually, let's just take a step back. And I think always just taking that step back and thinking, actually, why are we here? What does the customer love about RIXO? What can we offer them that's actually new, exciting, and not getting bogged down on comping the year before kind of offer.
With your competitors, I was going to ask you how you differentiate the RIXO brand from your competitive set, but it sounds like that if you're not tunnel vision in a negative way, but you're so sticking to your guns on what you guys want to do for your client, you're like, yep, there's competition over there somewhere, but we don't really need to pay attention to them because we're doing our thing and we know we're with that. Is that fair?
I think you want to be ahead of the curve. Like when we first started, I don't get bogged down about what other people are doing. I think, yeah, great, you've got to be aware. But I mean, people in the team can be aware of it. But Orla and I wouldn't be driving the business forward by saying, they've done this, let's do this. That's definitely not how we operate and run the business. We've got so many ideas of there's a gut instinct of what you think's right for the brand and just being out there in the market. Like I would never say that I have to do customer research or market research. I'm just constantly obsessed with fashion and Instagram and exploring new brands, and when you're on holiday going to vintage fairs and constantly keeping your eyes open. So I think if you love it, it's not like we have to put time into market research and seeing what other brands are doing. But I think one thing that people always ask us is, who is your customer? But for RIXO, we don't have an age group or a specific, like my mum can wear RIXO and look gorgeous, and so can my nieces, who are now kind of like one of them's nearly 18, looking for a prom dress, and she wants something to wear. But there's not many brands or our competitors that I think you have that broad age group. We've got this one amazing customer who wears RIXO to Wimbledon every single year, like print upon print, and she's in her 70s and she's fab. And then we have customers that literally come in their young 20s and they've kind of got a really important wedding or a job interview, or they've graduated from uni. And then you've got the woman that's kind of a career power woman, traveling loads, and she's got more disposable income. So there's a real wide variety of customers.
The good news is when you're self-employed, you're so busy that actually you don't have time to worry. You just have to crack on with the next thing. So if you're worrying about your competition, you've probably got too much time on your hands.
We're definitely aware of what our competition are doing just because we're instinctively in the market. So we're aware of what's going on. Like you'll get people say like, oh, M&S have copied this dress, or someone's copied this dress, or this is identical to ours. And it's like, you can't dwell on that. You're not, it is what it is. Move on.
And in your view, what is the most important aspect when you're building a fashion brand in particular?
I think having the real kind of identity behind it, like what is it you're trying to do and what's your tone of voice and who's the customer you're talking to. And I think if you're true to yourself and it's a product that you believe in, you don't have to ever do, I never felt like I've had to do the hard sell with RIXO when I'm talking to buyers or I'm talking to stylists or anything. It's just a genuine product that we love and we feel like it's different to what's out there. Doing something that's genuine to you and something that you really believe in, I think you never really have to do the hard sell. You have to really kind of talk it up in particular meetings and stuff, but it's not something that feels disingenuous.
Yeah. When we're speaking to our clients about their PR and brand and communication, we often say paid, owned, earned. Paid is an advertising placement where you're paying to be there. It doesn't hold as much power as editorial, which is earned media, where it's a genuine journalist saying a genuine opinion of their things because it's not bought. So that genuine ethos, and someone else said, I can't remember now, we're 105 episodes in, but someone said, as long as you have this almost deluded belief that what you're doing is absolutely right, that will carry you through, and that unshakable faith that will, you really believe in it, and that genuine thought around your designs and your prints.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it if you didn't, because there's tough days and there's days when I'm like, why can't this see, like this is, it's like your baby, you're obsessed with it and you so believe in that everything about it is right. So I think if you didn't have that, it'd be really difficult. I mean, it'd be tough. But like you said, look, we've never paid for any press coverage at all. It's all come completely natural from just building relationships with stylists. And if it's right for the page that they're doing, then great. But if it's not right, we wouldn't really pay to be there. And the same with like influencers. You've got to be so careful getting down the route of paying people to wear things, because it does come across as like a sponsored ad or something. You want someone to genuinely love the product, and then they request it and they want to wear it.
They're doing your PR for you then. They're actually a brand ambassador because they genuinely love the product. We work with a fragrance client and it's become sort of word of nose. It's almost cult following because some journalists, it's amazing. They're like, no, I love it, but I'm not going to write about it because I want to keep it privately for myself. I want it to be my It's like, no, you're not helping me here. We want the coverage.
That's not honestly, the amount of time, if I had a pound for every time someone said, but I want RIXO to be my little secret. And I'm like, no. I was like,
we need people to buy it to exist.
That's not the aim of the game here.
No, definitely. And I think there's no shame in admitting that. I mean, we got B Corp certified last September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it was obviously a chunk of work, but for me as this new small business, I wanted that validation that we are practicing what we preach.
Yeah.
But it was more the fact that you have to be a company, you can't be a charity. It's where you put people and planet above profit. But you need profit to be able to help people and planet. And there's no shame in that. And I met Grace Beverly last week at a Founder Forum event, and she was saying when she started a second business, she had a lot of backlash about, oh, this is obviously a cash grab. I'm like, it's a limited company. It's a business. We're here to make money. There's no shame in that. But I think when you can do it for something that you genuinely love, same with the podcast, I would do it if nobody listened because I get to learn so much from amazing founders, but it has to bring something back to the business. It can't be just a hobby. So I think that's it. If you get to design a product that you see people have complete joy with, but you're also keeping a roof above your head, then win-win.
But also not just your own head. It's like we employ over 100 people. We're responsible for all their mortgages. Like you've got to make the right decisions for everyone else. Like ultimately, as business leaders and founders, we're now responsible for a lot of people. So if we have cash flow issues or profitability, I mean, it's not fair. I mean, we've got to do what's right for the business at all times. So I think definitely you've got to have the business acumen as well.
Yeah. So there's some statistic about it's not the idea that fails in the first 5 years of startups, it's the cash flow. The idea could be amazing, but if the cash flow isn't managed, then it just ceases to exist, and it's such a shame. I just wanted to touch on briefly around sustainability. Is that something that you've woven into your brand as well?
I mean, from day one, we're not a markdown cultured brand. So we don't do mid-season sales. We don't do kind of like the typical 2 big sales a year. That's not something, a trap that RIXO's ever really fallen into. So I think overproducing in the first place is the most unsustainable thing you can do. So we have to almost retrain our merchandisers when they come into the business, because we don't buy for markdown. And that is what I'd say 9 out of 10 fashion brands do. They buy for markdown, even all our wholesalers. So that's, to start off with, we don't do that. We can't afford to have excess stock and a dent into our cash flow. So we've got to be really careful. So we buy for really high sell-throughs. And then with anything that we can't sell, we have a small limited archive section. And then we've got our pre-love section as well. So the pre-love section is really nice. It allows a customer, if they've got something in their wardrobe, we'd hate for them if they fell out of love with it or they couldn't wear it or they've just changed their size or changed their style over the years, they can bring that back into us. They get a credit note to buy something new. We then take that and then we'll kind of put that up for sale at a discounted price of exactly what we've given them credit note for. So a customer can then come in and buy a RIXO top for 70. It's basically a vintage or secondhand top, but it just allows that circularity of the product, so anyone can do that. We are working on being able to offer that online as well. At the moment, it's just in our stores. So we're really excited about doing that this year. We offer alterations as well, so customers can have things tweaked or kind of altered as they wish and as it fits into their lifestyle. And then we offer RIXO rental. So there's lots of initiatives we do. And then we've done collections as well where we don't have excess fabric left in any of our factories. So we either use it for scrunchies because we don't order massive amounts anyway. So we don't have rolls and rolls of fabric. But anything we do have left, we'll make it into our sustainable wash bags or our scrunchies. So there's not that excess fabric as well. But I think you have to be more sustainable because ultimately you need to be careful of your cash flow. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It makes you more profitable if you are more sustainable, if you're not overproducing and having loads of dead stock at the end of the season. So we have to be really, really careful. And we've always had to be really careful about every single garment that we produce.
And it protects your brand as well. I remember I think it was at Chanel, they stopped doing press sample sales and they would limit people to buying 1 to 2 classic handbags in the store any given transaction. They didn't want everyone to have it. Obviously, they kept putting the prices up as well, which helped. And then Burberry, the same thing. They wouldn't do sample sales and they wouldn't, I think there was some terrible article about burning stock rather than it going out on sample. But it was trying to protect the brand. But if you can protect the brand by not overproducing in the first place, everybody wins.
There's lots of missed opportunities. Like, we do look at our missed opportunity and think if we ordered more of that, we could have sold more of that within season. So, but we don't have investors that kind of say you need to drive X amount of revenue, so you need to buy X amount of stock to make sure you're getting every single opportunity. So yeah, there's lots of missed opportunities if we only order 50 of something instead of 200 or something. We're comfortable with that. So I think that's kind of very, very important.
This is a bit off topic, but have you had a bit of a funny question from other founders saying, "Oh, you're ready for investment," or "Why aren't you going after investment?" Because I've had this, like, "Oh, surely you want to go and raise." I'm like, why would I want to give myself a boss when I spent 4 years making sure I don't have another boss?
Honestly, I'd say every week, either people pushing you into it, why are you not doing it? Have you thought about doing it? And I just think cash flow's fine. We're still in control. We're still passionate. We still want to work.
A sort of 90s attitude of world domination. Like, people assume growth is best, and actually I've learned less is more. Less team members means less payroll, less worry, less responsibility. I mean, less stress.
That's the hardest thing that I think Ola and I have found. I wouldn't say we're naturally managers per se.
So you've never worked anywhere else?
Exactly. So I had to manage teams or build teams or what different teams. Like, we've got IT teams now, finance teams, ecom teams, merchandising teams. I've never done that before. Neither of us have ever done that before. So I think that's the hardest thing, and making sure that, because you want everyone to be happy within the culture as well. So that's that is always like a difficult thing. And everyone that we have is so ambitious, which is brilliant. But you've also got to be like, if you're not growing or you've had 2 tough years or during COVID and people want promotions all the time, that's the tough thing, because it's kind of like you want the best for them, but also if the company can't do it at the right time, you've also got to be careful of your cash flow and the company growth and everything. I think as the team grows from going from like 20 to 30 to 50 to 100, that's kind of been one of the hardest things, I would say.
The growing pain analogy is real, I think. And everyone says, get a good accountant and be okay with the roller coaster and the weight of responsibility. I'm like, I'm not okay with it. I accept it. I know it's there, but oh God, it's a lot.
Accountant is definitely a thing. Ola and I hired our first accountant because we were literally doing all the POs and the invoices on PowerPoint and screenshotting them and sending them to people
Wow.
like big customers. We couldn't afford an accountant, so we were like, okay, we'll just do that. And I said, well, Ola always laugh. We were sat down next to each other in the sofa, and I was like, what if you called that PO? And she was like, just add a 00 on the end. So all our POs, and then when we did get an accountant, he was like, I can't trace any of this because they're just like ABC at the end of it. Honestly, no joke. But we got there. So now we have a finance team. So I would definitely.
Yeah. Something we do is the previous guest has a question for the next guest. And actually, really interesting, it was Ashita from By Rotation who had a question for you, which was, what was the why when you first founded your business? And is it still the same today? And if it's changed, how has it?
I'd say the why was because Ola and I were obsessed with vintage, and we couldn't find anything that we were willing to pay a little bit more for. And we were going to vintage fairs at the weekend instead of going to Zara at the weekend and getting gorgeous dresses that were from they were almost 70 years old or 100 years old for like
no one else was wearing them.
No one else had it, and they were gorgeous, and we'd have it in our wardrobe for forever. So the why was a genuine product gap in the market, and because we were both so passionate. And I don't really think that's changed. We still really believe in the product that we're developing and bringing something different, and at that price point that we think for the product that we're delivering, we genuinely believe in that value for money and how the customer can wear it over and over again. And we've always said that we want RIXO to become future vintage so that people can wear it over or donate it to a friend or the pre-loved. I think it's remained the same, Julia.
Well, I think for a dynamic brand, I think that is absolutely as it should be. And you've absolutely nailed it. So congratulations. Well, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? And especially I laugh because in comms, it's 100% proactive anyway. And in podcasting, same thing. You can always do more. But when you run a business, there's always another email you can send, another idea that you can have. And knowing when to draw the line and be like, I'm just going to read a book. It's fine. And what would your question be for the next guest?
I think my question would be, what was throughout your career or during your time has been the most instrumental meeting that you've had with someone?
Oh, yeah.
Throughout your kind of career, you can. I found the beauty of RIXO is I've met so many amazing people that I would never have met if I hadn't have started RIXO. And I think there's some key people along your journey that really help you along the way. So it would be interesting to find that in the next guest.
What was your most instrumental meeting? I'll throw it back to you immediately.
Oh, there's been loads. We've been really lucky.
Meeting Orlagh.
Of course, yeah, that's it. You've answered it for me.
Why RIXO? How did you come up with a name really quickly?
Yeah. Oh, so it's really simple. And then people are like, oh, so my surname's Henrietta Rix. So the Rix is from me. And then the Orlagh is her first initial. So it's our two names joined together.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful chatting to you. I've learned a lot about everything. So thank you. I'm really grateful.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
I really hope you've enjoyed this conversation. You can find a recap of all the advice so kindly shared by our guest in the show notes along with their contact details. We'd love it if you could rate and review or share this podcast because it really does help other people discover it. To incentivise this a little, I would very happily offer you one of our PR guides on how to share editorial coverage legally. Just DM us or send us an email hello@fallowfieldmason.com with review in the title and we'll share it on.